Alright, what is going on, folks? Welcome back to the one and only Wrestling Otaku channel, your personification of excellence on YouTube and YWC. We're the best reviews wrestling and your three-time YWC channel of the year. Not back here. It is late night, past midnight, so it is officially Thursday, August the 14th of 2025. So hope you all had a good one. Watched AEW Dynamite earlier. Solid show once again. We're a couple weeks away, about a week and a half or so away from Forbidden Door, which that pay-per-view is shaping up to be pretty solid. You know, obviously you're going to have all the, combined, obviously it's a joint pay-per-view with AEW talents, New Japan talents. I'm sure some CMLL talents will be there as well. So, very much looking forward to that. You know, a week from Sunday. So yeah, a week from Sunday. So very much looking forward to that next weekend. And outside of that, the week has been pretty. It is what it is so far. It's started to get humid again, but outside of that, it's been all right. But hope you all have been doing well. So wanted to go ahead and do some more content since I haven't uploaded the video in about a day or so. So I figured I'd get back to again regular content making. And there are a few videos that I do plan on doing here in regards to various wrestling news stories we've been hearing recently. In regards to some things involving WWE, the Karrion Kross news. I want to follow up the video that I did the other day talking about his release from WWE, because there's things I want to say in regards to that. This whole news of WWE's new deal that they got with ESPN, where they're going to have their PLEs be on this new ESPN streaming service that's coming out later this year. I want to talk about that. And some more stuff. And again, obviously next weekend, like I mentioned, is AEW's Forbidden Door, so I'm going to give my predictions video for that probably at some point next week, leading up to that pay-per-view next weekend. And, some other stuff. Again, we're in the midst of course, football season, preseason. Of course, it's preseason right now. The Ravens' next game is Saturday, so I may get a follow-up, if I get the chance to watch that game. And yeah, there's several videos I plan on making. You all will see that here. But here today, with this video, I'm going to do something a little different. Just a kind of random topic video, if you will. Kind of a random video I've been thinking about doing for a while on this channel. Just, again, sometimes these ideas that I have, in terms of concepts for videos, they just kind of come to me. And this one has kind of stuck out to me for a while, so I figured I'd go ahead and do it. It is what it is. I think, it's something different from the norm. I think you guys may enjoy it. So here we go. So today, I'm just going to kind of share with you. And again, this is just completely off the top of my head. I know it kind of seems like a video just out of left field, but I've been thinking about this for a while. Today I'm going to be talking about what I would do if I got $1 million. If I became a millionaire overnight. I know this is something that people think about, every now and then, for obviously just regular common folk like myself, who are just obviously, day to day, we're just regular average individuals, haven't seen a whole lot of money in our lives. We have to work, have to work to make ends meet, live paycheck to paycheck. I know the feeling. It's pretty much how I've lived for the majority of my life. And, everybody dreams, everybody thinks about what would happen if they became rich, or they made it big, or, things like that. If they got a hold of like a large amount of money, or a large sum of money, just, by happenstance, or whatever the case may be. It's just something that, a lot of people think about. Obviously not so much in this day and age, because there's just so much bullshit going on with what's going on in this country politically, and just the grand scheme of the grand scope of things. It's not looking good. It's just not looking good. I can make an entire whole other video talking about that, but I'm not going to do that here. That's not what I'm here for. But this day and age, money is seemingly hard to come by. I mean, a large sum of money is hard to come by. Some of us will probably never. A large percentage of us, people who live around the world, especially here in the United States, a large portion of us will probably never see anything like that in our lifetime. But it is what it is. But it's always nice to think about, to kind of dream about or daydream about what would happen if if we did happen to come across, vast riches beyond our imagination. And again, this is just something I think about. I just think about stuff like this from time to time. It just pops up in my mind, and I figure, why not make a video out of it? So if I became a millionaire overnight, what would I do? What would I do? I'm sure whoever's watching this video, those of you out there who happen to see this video, I'm sure you all have your own kind of, I'm sure you all have, things that you would do, so on and so forth, or how you would, how you would react, or, what you would do if you became a millionaire overnight, and so on and so forth. This is just what I would do, okay? If let's say hypothetically, I got $1 million overnight, just boom, just out of nowhere. I don't have to, through whatever means, either somebody gives it to me or I win a contest, whatever the case may be. It's not important how you get it. The thing is that you get it. And personally, I think $1 million. Now, obviously, $1 million is a lot. Like it's a fortune. A lot of people consider $1 million to be their ideal, dollar amount, or the ideal amount of money that one would receive, and they can live out the rest of their lives in luxury without having to worry about anything. But now, especially in this day and age, in this economy, $1 million is, for certain people, $1 million could go like that. I mean, fairly quickly. I'm not saying immediately, but I'm saying for some people, $1 million probably wouldn't last a year or so. Just again, with things in this economy. So let's just say hypothetically, let's just say again for shits and giggles, for argument's sake, let's say I got $10 million. Let's say I got $10 million overnight. Maybe even not even that much, $5 million. Let's just go with $10 million, just for the sake of the video. If I became a millionaire overnight, if I had, say, $10 million just by happenstance, what I would do, well, first of all, I would make sure that my family is taken care of. That's the first thing I would do, I would make sure that my parents, obviously, my folks, both my parents were taken care of, would never have to work, day in their lives, because they do work. I'll make sure that they, my mother's taken care of, my father's taken care of. They would each receive a sum of money, let's say, of the portion of the $10 million they would each, I'll give them each about roughly $2 million, probably each. And I'll make sure also that my siblings are taken care of. They probably get maybe $1 million each, something like that. But again, I'll make sure for certain that my immediate family is taken care of, and my parents, obviously, and my siblings. I make sure I would make sure each of them receives a sum of money to ensure that they were taken care of for the rest of their lives, especially my mother. They would never have to want for anything ever again. That's always been big with me. I always kind of said to myself, if I ever made it big, if I ever received a significant amount of money, I would make sure that, my family was taken care of. If my grandmother was still living, if both my grandparents, my grandmother and grandfather, were still living, I would do the same thing for them. They used to always talk about, my grandparents, my grandmother especially, used to always say, if we ever got a big amount of money, like $1 million, I'll give, this amount to such and such, and, the people, the people who helped us would be taken care of. Family would be taken care of. So that's the big thing for me. That's the first thing I would do, for sure, That's the big thing I would do. And man, just thinking of my grandparents, it's just, yes, not to get emotional or anything, but yeah, that's definitely something that I would do first and foremost. I would make sure family's taken care of. But then after that, I would probably take whatever I have left. Again, each of my parents get $2 million, and my siblings get $1 million each. So that'll leave me with about roughly $4 million. And so then, after that, I'll probably give a portion of it I'll probably make a charitable donation, specifically to an organization, a big organization, or organizations that help and care for foster animals, or shelter pets and things of that nature. Like, for example, like the SPCA, for example, for those of you who know what that is, and any organization that aids with things like that, because I've always had a soft spot in my heart for animals. I don't like seeing animals, especially pets, in any kind of pain or trauma or anything like that. I always want to every time I see stuff like that, be it on TV or wherever, just makes my heart ache, because I just don't want to see animals be treated poorly or be in bad conditions and stuff like that. So I'll make it like a donation to a big charitable organization to make sure that they take care of their shelter pets and make sure that they got what they need to live happy lives, and maybe find a proper home and all that kind of stuff. And that's just always been I've always been, since childhood, I've always had a soft spot for animals, pets, especially cats. I'm a big cat person. Usually, you guys should know, but any pet, cats, dogs, birds, fish, rodents, lizards, hamster, whatever case, whatever qualifies, whatever you consider a pet. I've always been a big animal person, advocate for animals and animal rights and things like that, because animals are living things too. We share this planet with them, so they shouldn't be we shouldn't treat them poorly. But yeah, I'll definitely make a sizable charitable donation to like a big animal rights group or animal rights organization, charity, stuff like that. So that's always been my thing as well. So then after that, after I get that out of the way, I'll pretty much spend the majority of the rest of it on myself. I would pretty much take the remainder of that, which is a couple million, which is still a pretty damn big sizable amount, and I would pretty much live out the rest of my life in luxury. Like, I wouldn't have to want for anything else. I could buy whatever I want. I could live wherever I want. I could go out and buy a house, big house in the suburbs, preferably in like a gated community where I don't have to worry about being fucking bothered by anybody. Maybe some secluded area, maybe some secluded house or place out in some big area, rural area where there's not a lot of people, where people don't know where I am, or not a whole lot of people would know where I am outside of those I tell. And maybe a mansion, or mansion again, or even just a basic house, with a gate or whatever, a gate around it, that kind of shit, or like I said, a gated community. And I would buy whatever place I want. I would buy whatever cars I want. I would have probably 2 or 3 cars on hand. I would travel the world. I would take trips, to places like Japan. I've always wanted to go to Japan. Like, that's always been, a desire of mine for a long time. I mean, I'm an anime fan, and obviously, of course, there are various wrestling promotions like New Japan Pro Wrestling and stuff like that. So Japan, like, I've always been very interested in Japanese culture. So I've always wanted to take trips to Japan, like maybe once a year or maybe a couple times a year. It all depends on how I feel, but I'll make it an annual thing. I'll take trips to Japan, maybe trips to places like Canada, maybe the UK, just various spots around the world that I'd be interested in going to. So I just travel the world, just go where I want. I'd be able to go where I want. Like I said, I never have to work a day in my life with that amount of money, a couple million. I never have to want for anything more. Like, I would never have to work another day in my life. I'll just do what I want. I'll just go where I want, and that would be it. I would have no worries, no hassles. Wouldn't have to worry about freaking going to this place, or getting assistance from this place, or would have to worry about paying the bills on time, or worry about what to eat the next day, or none of that. All that shit that I've agonized over, and that I've gotten basically anxiety over. All the things I've had anxiety over the last better part of my adult life. I never have to worry about any of that again. I'd pretty much live the rest of my life like worry free. I could like I said, I'll spend it, how I want. Whatever I feel like I want, I buy anything I want, any game I want, just anything I want. Uh, I had thoughts of, possibly starting my own wrestling promotion. Obviously, local, a local wrestling promotion, like an independent promotion, because I've always thought about that. Here, obviously, set here around this area, because I mean, there are a few wrestling promotions, indie wrestling promotions in the state of Maryland, but not anywhere near this area. So, it would definitely be like a first, here in this, central Maryland, south of Baltimore. So, I had thoughts of starting my own wrestling promotion, making a local thing. We would do shows in the area, stuff like that. We might travel to various spots around the state, and I'll try to get, I'll try to sign, book, like, I'll try to get some big names, if not, guys who are free agents for the most part, guys who are local, local wrestlers, local talents, maybe get some bigger names, like the Hardys or others who have cut their teeth in various indie promotions here in the state of Maryland and stuff like that. And I would have fun with it. I would enjoy myself, and I think a lot of people would appreciate there being a wrestling promotion here in this area. I do think there are people who would appreciate that, who would like that. So I would make that a reality. I was thinking of starting like my own business where I would sell basically anime merchandise. Because there's not a. I mean, obviously, you got nowadays. You got like Crunchyroll. You got like I'm not talking like online. I'm not talking like streaming. I'm talking like a physical store where you can buy anime merchandise, like anime DVDs, posters, manga, shit like that. Because there aren't a whole lot of places here in the States that are. I don't think there's like any store here in the States that's like truly dedicated to selling anime merchandise. It's basically, if it is, it's online. You have to, it's mostly online stores and stuff like that. Like I said, Crunchyroll, Funimation, when it was a thing. There was a business called Right Stuff that was based up in, I think, Iowa, that used to like distribute anime stuff, which I used to be like a subscriber for. But then that got absorbed into Crunchyroll. So, but yeah, I would like make a kind of a local business, and if it got big enough, I would make it like a regional or even a national kind of chain thing, where I would sell again anime merchandise and anime various products, especially obviously the more popular series, but also the lesser known titles as well, so people can kind of experience what some of these other titles are about. Again, anime, DVDs, manga, light novels, posters, trading cards, T-shirts, various other, again, various, anything and everything like it relates to anime merchandise. I would sell at this store, at this chain that I was thinking of, this business that I was thinking about starting when it comes to that. So I had a few ideas about that. I think about stuff like this from time to time, but I would start that. In addition to my own wrestling promotion, in addition to my own local wrestling promotion, and we would see how that goes. Or I would see how that goes. Outside of that, like I said, whatever's left, like I said, I would just live off of that. I'd never have any worries. I could just live. I never have to want for anything. I never have to go out anywhere outside of when I want to go out. Like I said, when I want to travel, when I want to travel the world, or again, take trips around the world, stuff like that. Outside of that, I'll pretty much again live out the rest of my life more or less in luxury, and live out the rest of my life in seclusion. I never have to go out anywhere, because we're in the day and age of course, the internet, everything's online stuff, where you can pretty much order whatever you want and have it shipped to you. So I would never have to go out ever again. I could pretty much stay, in one spot. I could pretty much stay in, whatever area I lived in. I wouldn't have to go out ever again. I pretty much live the rest of my life in seclusion, which I would do. outside of, like I said, the occasional wrestling show, or if I went to an anime convention like I went to Otaku last weekend, maybe, again, when I take trips around the world, or, when I, whenever I just feel like I want to go out. But outside of that, I'll pretty much live in seclusion, and that's where I would remain for the remainder of my days. And I'll never have to worry about anything else, for the rest of my life, and that's pretty much what I would do if I became a millionaire overnight. And again, you just think about stuff like that. You just have visions, you have dreams about things like that. And I know, obviously I'm not deluded enough to think that that's a real possibility. I understand that, but again, it's nice to think, it's nice to dream about things like that, because I know that at this stage of the game, at my age, and just again the way this economy is, the way this society is, I know things like that for somebody like me is not a possibility. It's just not, it's just not. It's not a matter of being lazy, or it's not a matter of not wanting it bad enough. It's a matter of you just can't, like, this. It's like this economy and the way things are, and the way jobs are, and the way businesses are. You just can't, get to that level. At least not by yourself. It's just not possible. It's just not possible. There's a quote from a series, Full Metal. For those of you who ever watched the anime Full Metal Alchemist, there was a quote from one of the main antagonists in the original Full Metal Alchemist that I always think about when it comes to things like this. And basically, it's people can work their entire lives and still end up dying in poverty, while others are born into wealth and they never have to work a day at all. And that quote really kind of really sticks with me, because when you think about how this world is and how the economy of society is, it's the truth. There are people who work every day, work for the majority of their lives, and they still really have nothing to show for it, because they're stuck. They're stuck in one spot, or they're stuck in one job, or they're stuck in one area, and they never see any opportunity for career growth or anything. They work their entire lives, and they pretty much stay in the same spot their entire lives. Whereas other people are born into rich families, and they have wealth. They're born with wealth, or they come from families with wealth, and they never have to work for anything. It's just that's the reality of this world. That's the reality of it. And it's just when you think about stuff like that, it's just like it's very, very eye opening. It's very telling. It can be depressing, at times too. Just to think about that, but that's why people like me, we turn to various hobbies, escapes, if you will. Escapes from reality, if you will, like, again, anime and wrestling and things of that nature, for me anyway, and gaming too. But yeah, thinking about like what would happen if you suddenly became rich overnight, or you got $1 million or whatever it is overnight. It's nice to think about, even knowing that it's just, you probably will never see money like that in your lifetime. It's just nice to think about. It's just nice to think about, and that's kind of where the idea for this video came from. So yeah, but yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for this video. So hope you guys enjoyed this little impromptu, random video that I put together here. And so yeah, that's pretty much going to do it for that. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I certainly hope you enjoyed this. But if you did, be sure to hit that like button, leave a comment, give your thoughts on anything. What would you do if you became a millionaire overnight? Just let me know in the comments. And be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Appreciate all the support. I can get more content to come soon. But that's going to do it for me for tonight. So thanks for watching again. Until next time, Wrestling Otaku, I'm out for now. See you guys later. Peace.